Good morning, children. Kenny Watts here. I'm fine, dear children. How are you doing? Hopefully fine. That's great. Dear children, today I'm going to begin with Chapter 4, A Truly Beautiful Mind. When we read this title, dear students, definitely it will click your mind that how a mind can be beautiful. And even one more word has been added before that is truly beautiful mind. So we can say that the mind is, in the real sense, it's a beautiful mind. How a mind can be beautiful? Can it be beautiful by keeping good ideas, good thoughts? Can it be beautiful by just doing some kind of mindful exercises, some brainstorming exercises? How we can make our mind beautiful? And by reading this title of this chapter, do we able to realize that what are we talking about? Dear students, today we are going to begin with a wonderful chapter, and the main protagonist of the story is a genius. Now, when we just listen about a genius, I know most of you, and not most of you, but all of you are genius in one way or the other. Not necessarily that someone who is an academic expert, he is only a genius. You can be a genius in any field. You can show your potential in any way in this world. So, dear students, I'm really very happy to tell all of you that you all are genius in one way or other. But the personality whom we are discussing here is, so why he is called a genius? We have to see that. And before doing that, we should know that who is a genius? What are the qualities of a genius? Does he take birth from the womb of a mother with some additional qualifications? Does he get some more mercy from the God, from the Almighty? How an individual becomes a genius, that we have to see. In my opinion, what I believe, that genius is also a common man, a normal man, like you, maybe like me. But what they might be doing something extra. They might be covering a bit longer distance to reach that level of genuinity. Dear students, before you read, certain informations have been mentioned over here. In the second point, it has been mentioned that we shall now read about a young German civil servant who took the world by storm. Underline this, who took the world by storm. How you can take the world by storm, that you should know. The world by storm. So how can we take the world by storm, that you should know. Okay. So it's very important to know that how you can take the world by storm about 100 years ago. So dear students, maybe a century back, a German civil servant, he took the world by storm. It's an idiomatic use. So he gave a great information, shared a great information with the world. That's how he shook the world with his ideas. In the summer of 1905, the 26-year-old published in quick succession 4 groundbreaking papers. One more phrase has come over here. Groundbreaking papers. Groundbreaking papers, dear students. What do you mean by groundbreaking papers? Does it mean that he was able to break the ground? So we need to realize that how he was able to give this groundbreaking papers about light, the motion of particles, the electrodynamics of moving bodies. Very big terminologies have come over here. Definitely you might have read about light in your previous classes. Definitely would have read the motion of particles too. I don't think so that you have reached to this level of electrodynamics till date. But somewhere you might have been well aware of this term, electrodynamics of moving bodies. And energy, yes, definitely. You might have read about this word energy. Okay, many of you might have read that. So dear students, this 26-year-old published in quick succession, and what he did in quick succession, that is very important here. In quick succession, he gave this groundbreaking papers about light, the motion of particles, the electrodynamics of moving bodies and energy. Groundbreaking papers, dear students. So you need to see that how he was able to give these papers, groundbreaking papers I'm talking about. His work took up only a few pages in scientific journals, scientific magazines. His work was published over there. Definitely his work might have taken a few pages of those magazines, but changed forever our understanding of space. But dear students, those papers, those groundbreaking papers, changed the face of the world. How it changed? Changed forever our understanding of space. And because of these researches, these papers, our understanding of the space was completely changed. Time and the entire cosmos, and transformed that name Einstein into a synonym for genius. And dear students, the name Einstein turned out to be a synonym for genius. All of you might be well aware of synonym, a similar word for genius. You can call it Einstein, you can call it genius, or the same thing. So you need to underline this, Einstein into a synonym for genius, dear students. You need to underline the word by storm. Then you can underline groundbreaking papers. These are very important terminologies which have been used over here. 50 years after his death, Albert Einstein's genius still reigns. And dear students, although he is not with us, the genius is not with us, he is not our contemporary, but still 50 years after his death, that's what greatness is all about, dear students. Greatness is all about. When you are being remembered even after your death, that is not 1 year, 2 years, but 50 years after his death, this genius is still reigning the minds, reigning the world, because of his groundbreaking papers, groundbreaking theories, researches. Such a fine gentleman he was. So dear students, today we are going to begin reading about this character, this great scientific hero. Many of you definitely would be like Albert Einstein. You might be relating yourself that yes, as I am born on 14th of March, so I can be Albert Einstein. Definitely it can click your mind. So you can be, dear students, you can be. Let us come to the first paragraph, what it states. Albert Einstein was born on 14th of March 1879. This is very important to note down here. He was born on 14th of March 1879 in the German city of Ulm. Okay, it's a German city. Without an indication that he was destined for greatness. And dear students, no one knows when a child is born, no one knows that what he is destined to do, what he is destined to do, what he is going to do, what he is going to become. You can never say anything unless and until you don't have those soothsayers, those predictors, those who can tell about your future. So when this boy was born on this day, no one had any idea that he is destined to be a great scientific genius. No one had thought that. On the contrary, on the opposite of that contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. The mother was thinking differently. The mother was thinking differently. She considered him a freak. And who is a freak? Disapprovingly to talk about a person who is unusual and does not behave, look or think like others. So he was considered a bit different. The mother was a bit concerned. My child does not behave like others, does not look or think like others, so definitely it would be a matter of great concern for a mother. And she said, my son is a freak. To her, his head seemed much too large, dear students, much too large. And his head was much too large. Does it mean that he had some great brain inside that? What might have been the reason for that? Or is just the anatomy of a body? You cannot do anything in that. Okay? So his head seemed much too large. At the age of 20 and a half, just imagine. Einstein still was not talking. Oh, I beg your pardon, it's 2.5. I beg your pardon. At the age of 2.5, Einstein still was not talking. He was not talking when he was 2.5. You can just imagine that. When he finally did learn to speak, he uttered everything twice. And when he started learning how to speak, he uttered everything twice. The initial problem was that he was not speaking till he was 2.5. When he started speaking, he started uttering, he started saying everything twice. One more trouble. So life is full of challenges, dear students. And they were the challenges in front of a mother or in front of the parents. Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him Brother Boring. Underline that. He was called Brother Boring. So the youngster played by himself. So he used to play by himself because he had less friends. Because children call him Brother Boring, definitely no one would be playing with him. One instance has been mentioned over here. Otto Nobel, the historian of ancient mathematics, told a story about the boy Einstein that he characterizes as a legend. And this historian of ancient mathematics told a story about. He's just narrating a story, telling you a story, or not exactly a story, but it's a small anecdote about the boy Einstein that he characterizes as a legend, whom he considered a legend, a great individual, a great personality. That seems fairly authentic. As he was a late talker, his parents were worried. As he was a late talker, as it has been told to you that he learned speaking at the age of 2.5. His parents were worried. At last, at the supper table one night, he broke his silence to say. And at last, at the supper table, it's a dinner, it's a late night dinner. One night, he broke his silence to say, the soup is too hot. And what he said, the soup is too hot. Greatly relieved, his parents asked why he had never said a word before. And he was being asked, why didn't you utter a word before? Albert replied, because up to now, everything was in order. Such a remarkable journey began over here. He uttered this statement for the very first time, underline that. And when the parents inquired that why didn't you deliver, why didn't you speak a single word till late, then he said, because up to now, everything was in order, so there was no need for me to speak. Such was Mr. Einstein. So dear students, I have told you that he learned talking quite late. He especially loved mechanical toys. He had a great love for the mechanical toys, as you children might be having these days. Looking at his newborn sister Maja, he is said to have said, fine, but where are her wheels? Underline that. What comment he made about his newborn sister Maja, where are her wheels? Mean to say, he was looking for wheels even in a child, a small child. He was looking some kind of mechanism in that human being too. Let us go ahead, and then what happened one day? A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession would not matter because he will never make a success at anything. Oh my goodness. Quite heartrending. A very pessimistic thought. A negative approach towards life on the part of the headmaster, which I consider. What he delivered, what he stated. The headmaster said to his father that what Einstein chose as a profession would not matter because he will never make a success at anything. He said, dear parent, whatever profession he will choose doesn't matter at all, but he will never make a success at anything. And it was being delivered as he was having predictions about that child. He was a soothsayer. Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6. I don't know whether the headmaster was right here or not, because it is quite absurd to deliver such kind of statements on part of such a responsible individual. But fine, teachers are always teachers. They might have seen something over there in the child, that's why they might have said that. And it is being said on the basis of circumstances. Because you never know what is going to happen in future. So he started learning to play the violin at a very tender age of 6 because his mother wanted him to do. He later became a gifted, immature violinist, and later on he became a very gifted, highly gifted, immature violinist, and he became so just because of his mother. Maintaining the skill throughout his life, and he maintained that skill throughout his life of playing violin. Dear students, this tells us that you should not only be an academically good child, but you have to be an all-rounder. You have to fulfill the needs of your life. You have to have good hobbies with the help of which you can entertain yourself, and that's what he did. He turned out to be a very good violinist, and he maintained that. Why I'm just circling this word maintaining? Because he maintained that skill throughout his life. Okay? And he was an amateur violinist. And what an amateur violinist? Doing something for personal enjoyment. It was not his profession. He was not a professional violinist. But Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. He was not a bad pupil at all. He was not a bad student at all. He went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old. And he went to a high school in Munich, where his family had shifted when he was 15 months old, and scored good marks in almost every subject. And he was a good student, scoring very good marks in every subject. Einstein hated the school's regimentation, but he hated that regimentation, that discipline. He was not a man of discipline according to the sources. He hated that regimentation and often clashed with his teachers, and he had often clashed with his teachers. Clashing here may be that he might be arguing with the teachers. He may not be happy at the instructions passed over to the students. At the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled there that he left the school for good. And at the age of 15, he felt so suffocated here. Okay, he felt so suffocated. He was unable to breathe properly because he was not ready to stay over there in that strong regimentation. So he felt suffocated. Okay, there that he left the school for the good. That he left the school for some good purposes. Dear students, let us move ahead and what happens next. The previous year, Albert's parents had moved to Milan and left their son with relatives. And the last year, Albert's parents, they had moved to Milan, one more city in Germany, and left their son with relatives. After prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland, in a city which was more liberal than Munich. And after long discussion, dear students, Einstein got his wish to continue. He got his wish to continue his education. He wanted to continue his education in German-speaking country, Switzerland, in a city which was more liberal than Munich. And that city was more liberal than Munich. So he wanted to go over there, wanted to continue his education over there. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics. So Einstein was highly gifted. He was a very good student of mathematics and interested in physics too. And after finishing school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. And after finishing his school life, he had already decided to study at a university in Zurich. Okay, so he had decided that I will continue my education in the university in Zurich. But science was not the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man with the walrus mustache. But dear students, science was not the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man. Science was not the only thing which suited him, that appealed to him, to this young man, dashing young man with a walrus mustache. He used to keep walrus mustache. So he was a dashing young man. He had some different kind of opinions too about life. And here two images have been shown. One, Einstein in 1900 at the age of 21. Einstein in 1955 as we remember him now. So these are the two images available with us regarding Einstein. Okay. What happened next, dear students? he also felt a special interest in fellow students. So definitely he might have taken some admissions there, and he felt some interest in a fellow student, okay, a special interest in a fellow student because co-education was there, and the hormonal changes were too taking place in the body. Definitely the interest had to be there. So he had some special interest in a fellow student, Milivia Merrick. So name of that fellow student was Milivia Merrick, whom he found to be a clever creature. And he noticed that Milivia was a very clever creature. This young Serb means from Serbia, had come to Switzerland because the University of Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. And why he had come over there from Serbia? Okay, she had come to Switzerland because the University of Zurich was one of those universities in those times in the entire Europe, where women could get degrees. Okay, so dear students, at the time, definitely it would have been a difficult task for the women to get education. So this girl Mileva, she came over there to get degrees, to get higher education. Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistines. And Einstein saw in her, he noticed in her an ally against the Philistines. And who are these Philistines, dear students? A word used disapprovingly to talk about people who do not like art, literature, or music. So why Einstein had some kind of interest in this girl? Because he found that she was a companion to him against the Philistines. Those people who show interest in literature, in art, in music. So she did not have that. So you can say Einstein and Mileva, they both might be having some same interest in science. Those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. And further he adds that Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistines, those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. And they were the people, those who were loving art, music, literature. So he was constantly at odds with them. He was not happy with them. The couple fell in love. And they both fell in love because they had some same interests. Letters survive in which they put their affection into words. Dear students, at the time, the mobile phones were not available. The satellite phones were not there. WhatsApp was not there. Internet connections might not have been there. So what was the source? Exchange of feelings were being done with the help of letters. And they survive in which they put their affection into words. And with the help of the letters, they were able to put their affection into words. Mixing science with tenderness. And here in those letters you can find, they were not completely love letters, dear students, but there was science mixed with tenderness, mixed with emotions, okay, some kind of love, but science was there. See the beauty, okay, science mixing with science and tenderness. Wrote Einstein, how happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion. And once Einstein had written down that how happy and proud I shall be, he said. He said that how happy I would be, dear students, we both would be when we both would work hard to bring out our work on the theory of relativity, and we'll able to take this theory of relativity to a victorious conclusion. So he was very happy that Einstein and Mileva, they both would work hard. They'll bring out a conclusion to this theory of relativity. Let us see what happens next, whether they were able to give that or not. In 1900, at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate and unemployed. At the age of 21, he was a university graduate, okay, but unemployed. Unemployed means to say he was not working anywhere. He may not have got any job. He worked as a teaching assistant. So he worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons, and finally secured a job in 1902 as a technical expert. And after all, in 1902, he got a job of a technical expert in the patent office in Bern. Okay? Patent office. You should know what is a patent. Here its meaning is mentioned over here in a glossary. A document which gives the rights of an invention to an inventor. That is patent. Dear students, to take it more easily, you can understand this term that if you are able to discover, you are able to invent something new, then you will get it right over that invention, because you have done that. So he was working in that patent office in Bern. While he was supposed to be assessing other people's inventions, and there, what he was supposed to do? Supposed to assess, analyze other people's inventions. Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. And there, although he was assessing others' works also, but at the same time, he was developing his own ideas in secret. He was developing his own ideas. He said to have jokingly called his desk drawer at the work the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. Dear students, with great fun, he used to call his desk drawer at the workplace the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. Sometimes the question can be asked to you that why he used to call his desk drawer a Bureau of Theoretical Physics. What was so special over there? So he used to call that desk drawer a Bureau of Theoretical Physics because definitely he would be keeping all his research papers, documents over there in that desk drawer. So that would be a great place for him, for his researches, for his inventions. That's why he was calling that a Bureau of Theoretical Physics. Dear students, before moving ahead, till here you have come to know that who was Einstein? When he took birth, what were the troubles his parents faced? He was not able to speak till he was 2.5 years old. And when he spoke, then what he said, where he studied, when he met Mileva Merrick, how they both fell in love, how they both were working hard to bring out a theory of relativity. So these are some of the informations which have been discussed to you. Let us move ahead. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity. So after all, in 1905, he was able to give a special theory of relativity according to which time and distance are not absolute. And he gave a theory that time and distance are not absolute. Okay? Not absolute. Absolute means measured in itself, not in relation to anything else. Okay? They are to be measured in itself. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks. And to make it more easier to understand, he has written further that indeed, in reality, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. So to make it more convenient for the comprehension of students, he is written down. Because it's not easy to understand the special theory of relativity of Einstein. So it's mentioned here that how you can understand that with an example. He said that if two perfectly accurate clocks, we begin them, they will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey. Okay? If one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. So they both would not be absolute. One can be very fast in relation to the other. From this followed the world's most famous formula which describes the relationship between mass and energy. And that's how he was able to devise the world's most famous formula. Underline that. He was able to give the world's most famous formula which describes the relationship between mass and energy. E is equal to mc square. Here, dear students, it is mentioned here in this mathematical equation. E stands for energy, m for mass, and c for speed of light in a vacuum about 3 lakh km per second, dear students. And as far as the story of mass is concerned, definitely when you will study science later on, you will come to know that in chemistry and physics, the theory of weight and mass can be different. Okay? In the terms of physics, weight and mass can vary. So, and in the terms of chemistry, you can find that maybe they both are similar to each other. Okay? So later on in the future classes, we'll understand that how weight and mass are equal, how this formula functions, what is the use of this mathematical equation. And to make it more clear, Albert Einstein had also jotted down a statement over here when you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours and to make it more convenient and easier for you to understand again. He is mentioned. The theory, when you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes. He says that when the good time is being there. And what is the good time? When you are sitting with a nice girl. When you sit with a girl of your dreams for 2 hours. 2 hours. Okay? It seems like 2 minutes. It means when the good times are there, they pass quite quickly. And when you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, and when you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, dear students, it seems like 2 hours. That's relativity. That's how he's able to make it more convenient for you to understand, to make you understand relativity, that how we can relate the things. Okay? So sitting on a stove for 2 minutes definitely will be like 2 hours. Similar is the situation here these days, that we are indoors, okay, and that's how what is happening. Time is not running away. It's not passing as quickly as it should be. So dear students, in the terms of Albert Einstein, when the good time is being there, it passes quickly. And when we are passing through toughest of the times, it does not seem to be passing. But never mind, it will pass too. Because time has to pass. It has to travel. It's all depends on our mind, that what we think about that. So respect time, because time is everything. Moving ahead, dear students, while Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. And dear students, Einstein was a great scientist, as it has been told to you. He was a great mathematician, and he was solving the difficult puzzles of life, difficult puzzles of science, of physics. His private life was unraveling, and his private life was not good at all. It was unraveling. It had started to fall. And what had happened then? Let us see that. Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies. And he wanted to marry the girl of his dreams, Mileva Merrick, right after finishing his studies. But his mother was against it. Mother was not happy. Okay? She was not happy at all. Now we have to see that why she was not happy. She thought Mileva was 3 years older than her son. The first reason, dear students. She thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son. Okay, she was quite older than her son. Not 1, not 2, but 3 years older. Was too old for him. She was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. She was also concerned about Mileva's intelligence. She is a book like you, his mother said. And she was more concerned about that fact. And he told his son Einstein that, dear son, she is like a book like you. Okay? She's a book like you, his mother said. Einstein put the wedding off. And he was an obedient child of his mother. Despite loving the girl a lot, he postponed the wedding. Okay? Postponed the wedding. So we can learn a lot from this character, that what kind of person he is here. The pair finally married, but after all, the love could not wait. Finally, they married in Jan 1903 and had 2 sons. And after their wedlock, they got 2 sons. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. But after a gap of few years, the marriage could not function properly and it faltered. Okay? It broke down. Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition. Why? Why it did not work? Why the marriage faltered? What went wrong? They stayed together for such a long time. They had 2 children. They were becoming more responsible. Their children, and what went wrong? The reason has been mentioned here. Underline that. Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition. Dear students, it happens in life that when Einstein and Mileva, they both were working, being a lady, being a responsible lady who might be responsible for the entire household, she was losing her intellectual ambition. Okay, she was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. And she simply turned out to be a housewife. And these kind of situations often occur with us. When both husband and wife, they both are working, they both have some intellectual ambitions, then sometimes those ambitions come into the way. Then we have to see what to be done. And to live in a male-dominated society, sometimes it happens that a woman has to sacrifice her intellectual ambitions. But should we do that? Or should she be given equal opportunity to excel, to move ahead in life with her intellectual ambitions? Dear children, I am of the strong belief that they must be given those choices. They must be given those liberties. They must be given that freedom of having that intellectual ambition, completion of that, so that family and the intellectual ambitions go hand in hand. Okay? So that's why the marriage could not be successful. Their ambitions were coming in their way. And after years of constant fighting, and as a result of that, what happened? Disharmony was there in the family. The fighting took place. The couple finally divorced, and after all, they decided to take divorce with each other. And in 1919, they both got divorced. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. Einstein could not wait. Okay? And he married his cousin Elsa the same year. And it's very important note here. You will definitely be thinking about that he married his cousin. So dear students, in those times, definitely it would have been possible. Even in the ancient cultures too, it was prevailing at the time. Moving ahead, dear students, what happened next? He had his second marriage. Mileva might have taken her in other direction, other route. They separated ways. Now Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to the world fame. And his new personal chapter coincided with his rise to the world fame. Now what happened that when he had a new chapter in his life, a new married life, that coincided with his rise to the world fame. At the same time, he reached that destination of world fame. In 1915, he had published his General Theory of Relativity. In 1915, he published that, which provided a new interpretation of gravity, and he was able to give a new interpretation to gravity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. And in 1919, the year he married his cousin Elsa, an eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate, and his theory was proved accurate in 1919. So dear children, it was a coincidence. Maybe Elsa might have turned out to be quite lucky for her. But one thing is coming to my mind. I'm thinking over here that whether Mileva Marek had anything to do with these research papers, because she has not been named here. I don't think so. She was there, and if she was there, then definitely her name would have been there. So, Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be reflected. And Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be reflected. And he was able to correctly calculate in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected to the sun's gravitational field. And he gave the theory, underline that. The newspapers proclaimed his work a scientific revolution, and it was a scientific revolution. Underline this phrase, a scientific revolution. You can be asked, what is a scientific revolution? Okay, such kind of scientific revolutions have taken place in the world since ages, and this was one of them. And as a result of that, what happened? Mr. Albert Einstein, a great scientific genius, was appreciated in the world. His works were appreciated, and he received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. He was lauded by the press, appreciated by them, supported by them, and he was honored and got invitations across the globe to come to the country. Dear students, till here, the scientific genius has been able to publish his papers on the theory of relativity. He has been a man of success. He has been honored, invited, and the Nobel Prize for Physics was even conferred on her in 1921. This is very important to be noted down. And what happened next? The Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933. It was the Nazi rule. You might have read about that. Einstein immigrated to the United States and he went to United States of America. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. And 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. They were very happy, very upset. Many of them had fled from fascism. And many of them had fled from that rules of fascism, just as Einstein had. And now they were afraid that Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. And now they were apprehensive that Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb, which could be used against the humanity. They were very much concerned about that. At the urging of a colleague and at the request of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and he wrote a letter to Mr. Franklin D. Roosevelt on 2nd of August 1939, in which he warned, and he said in his letter, what he said, underline that, a single bomb of this type, of this nuclear fission, exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. And he wrote in his letter, showing the violence it can create, showing the terror it can create, showing the destruction it can create. His words did not fall to have an effect, but dear children, his words fell on the deaf ears. They did not have any kind of effect, any kind of resultant out of that. The Americans developed the atomic bomb. And the Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own. And secretly the American developed atomic bomb. And in a secret project of their own, and dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. And dear students, you might be knowing that how Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the two cities of Japan, they were bombed. Atomic bombs were dropped on the cities on 6th of August and 9th of August 1945. And hopefully it was the end of the Second World War. It was a great destruction, dear students, a great tragedy. When science is being used for such purposes, when science is being used against humanity. Because if something has merit, then definitely it has demerits too. Because every coin has two sides. So Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction, and Einstein was deeply shaken by the destruction because he was a great scientific genius. He had not expected such kind of destruction. This time he wrote a public missive to the United Nations, and this time he wrote to the United Nations. In it, he proposed the formation of a world government, and he requested the United Nations that a world government should be made. And what is a world government? There should be a body, a world body, which can look after the entire world, that what is happening over there in which countries. Such kind of bombing can never take place again against the humanity. Unlike the letter, dear students, resolve this one made no impact. Unlike the previous letter, this letter did not have any kind of impact. But over the next decade, dear students, Einstein got more involved in politics. He became more involved in politics, hesitating for an end to the arms build-up. And he was supporting the human rights mission, hesitating, going against the end to the arms build-up and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. And he was using his campaign, his popularity for peace and democracy. He was going for world peace. He was a man of peace. He wanted democracy globally. He wanted peace globally. He wanted that such kind of scientific advancement should not be used against humanity. Man should not kill man. It's a world, the earth is worth living. We all should live peacefully over here. This was his message in life. And dear students, when Einstein died in 1955, this scientific genius took his last breath when he was at the age of 76. It was a great loss for the entire humanity, for the entire world. He was celebrated as a visionary, a world citizen, as much as a scientific genius. And he was termed as a world citizen. The questions can be asked, why Einstein is being called as a world citizen? Why he was a visionary? Because, dear students, he was not simply a scientific genius, but he was thinking for the well-being, for the peace, for the democracy of the world. He wanted a peaceful atmosphere. He wanted that humanity should win. Science is there, but it should not be used for destruction. It should not be used for such kind of ruthless attacks which were done on the two cities of Japan. So he was against that, dear students. So that was a great scientific genius we have talked about here. I hope you will definitely understand this, comprehend this video which I have shared with you. And if you have any queries, you can just put your queries in the comment section below. And try to solve all the questions which have been given over there. Wait for the next video. Till then, have a nice time. Goodbye.